A single mom struggling to survive, juggling her job as a waitress and caring for three kids. Suddenly, she sees a car about to explode and, without thinking, saves the life of a billionaire's son. But instead of gratitude, she's met with disdain. He looks at her as if her act of courage means nothing. What would you do in her place? Could you stay calm and keep your dignity in the face of such disrespect? And will this mom be able to show the world what true courage and strength really mean? Before finding out what happens next, hit follow on the channel and join us for stories that inspire, move, and prove that real courage can come from the most unexpected places. Ashley Johnson wiped the sweat from her forehead as the lunch rush ended, the clatter of plates and the chatter of hungry customers fading into a quiet hum. Her small apartment awaited her at the end of the long day, three children counting on her, bills stacking up like mountains she could never quite climb. At 40, Ashley's life had been a series of battles. Some she had won, some she carried like scars. She adjusted the apron over her worn shirt, feeling the familiar ache in her shoulders. Another day survived, she muttered to herself, a weak smile tugging at the corners of her lips. But survival had become a habit, not a victory. Her mind wandered to memories she tried hard to bury, the kind of memories that gnawed at her soul when the world went quiet. She had been a firefighter once, brave, fearless, and determined. But one tragic night haunted her every day, a fire in a small apartment building. She had rushed through the flames, hoping to save everyone inside. She had found a little girl trapped under a collapsed beam. Ashley tried everything, but she couldn't pull her out in time. The girl didn't make it. The guilt had settled like a heavy chain around her heart. "I failed you," Ashley whispered into the empty room of her memory, tears threatening to fall. Then there was the accident that had claimed her mother's life. Ashley's hands tightened on the counter as she remembered the shrill ring of her phone, the voice of her mother crackling through the line. Distracted for a moment, she had glanced up, then the screech of tires, the crush of metal, the scream she could never unhear. Her mother had been gone, and Ashley had been left with a heart full of questions and a life that suddenly felt too heavy to carry alone. Her children were waiting for her at home. Mia, 12, with her curious eyes and thoughtful silence. Jordan, 10, mischievous and loud, always testing limits, and little Lily, 8, innocent and trusting, believing her mother could do anything. Ashley smiled at the thought, but the smile was tinged with worry. "I have to be enough," she whispered. For them. Her life now was survival. She worked as a waitress, hands raw from years of labor, but she had also been an electrician, a nanny, a cleaner, a firefighter, a jack of all trades. Each role had been a mask, a way to keep going, to provide, to not let the world see just how fragile she felt inside. She had skills, yes, but the fear of failure had become a shadow she couldn't shake. Ashley often wondered if courage was about strength or about choosing to move forward despite fear. She remembered her mother's words, soft yet firm. "Courage is not the absence of fear, Ashley. It's the willingness to act even when fear is screaming in your ears." Ashley clung to that thought, even on the days she felt invisible, unseen, and unworthy. As she closed the restaurant for the night, she thought about tomorrow. She had no grand plan, no escape route from the cycle of bills, work, and worry. But she had her children, and in their eyes she found a reason to keep moving forward. "I'll figure it out," she said quietly, a whisper that was both a promise and a challenge to herself. Walking through the city streets, the neon lights flickering and cars rushing past, Ashley felt the pulse of life around her. She was just one woman, small against the enormity of the world, but she was present. She was alive. And even in the shadows of her past, even under the weight of guilt, she had a spark that refused to be extinguished. Her apartment smelled faintly of dinner she had cooked earlier for her children, a simple meal, but made with love. Mia greeted her with a hug that made her forget, for a moment, the weight she carried. Jordan chattered excitedly about a comic he had read, while Lily clung to her side, eyes wide with curiosity about everything. Ashley laughed, truly laughed, and felt the warmth in her chest she hadn't felt in a long time. Mom, Mia said softly, do you ever feel like you could do anything if you just tried? Ashley knelt to meet her daughter's gaze. Every day, she admitted. But sometimes we just need to keep trying, even when it's hard. That's what makes us strong. In that small apartment, surrounded by the laughter and voices of her children, Ashley allowed herself a fleeting sense of hope. Not because the world had changed, but because she had chosen, once again, to keep going. One day at a time, she thought. One day at a time, and I'll get there. And deep down, beyond the guilt, the fear, and the struggle, a quiet determination began to grow. Ashley Johnson was a survivor. She had been forged by loss, by hardship, by trials that would have broken others. And though she didn't know it yet, the night was only the beginning. The life she was about to live, one of courage, change, and unexpected encounters, was waiting to find her. Because sometimes, it only takes one moment of bravery to change everything. The sun hung low over the city, painting the streets in orange and gold. Ashley was finishing her shift at the diner, the rhythm of plates and orders still echoing in her ears. Her body ached, but her mind wandered, always thinking of the children waiting at home. She didn't notice the sound at first, the screech of tires, a sudden collision, the metallic crunch that made her stomach drop. A crowd was gathering, and in the middle of it all, a car had flipped, smoke curling from the hood like a dark warning. Panic gripped the onlookers, but Ashley didn't hesitate. Years of instincts honed by firefighting, by quick thinking, by necessity, took over. She ran. Through the shattered glass and twisted metal, she saw him, Sean Hunt, 15 years old, trapped in the driver's seat. His father's face flashed in her mind for just a moment, but there was no time to think. Only action mattered. Ashley slid under the frame of the car, her heart pounding. Hold still, kid. I got you, she said firmly, though her voice quivered. Sean struggled. Panic etched across his youthful face. I don't need help, he snapped, his tone sharp and arrogant. Ashley ignored it, focusing on lifting him carefully. Seconds stretched like hours. The engine hissed, sparks flying. And then, explosion threatened. With a final surge of strength, Ashley pulled Sean out just as flames licked the underside of the car. He hit the pavement, coughing, terrified, while she stumbled back, chest heaving. Around them, the crowd cheered and gasped. But instead of gratitude, Sean's eyes narrowed, his lips curling in disdain. You're just a waitress, he said, voice dripping with contempt. What do you even know? Ashley froze for a split second, the sting of insult sharp against the adrenaline. But she held her ground, straightening her shoulders. I know how to save lives, she replied evenly, calm but firm. And today, I saved yours. Sean turned away, muttering under his breath, clearly disgusted by the ordinary woman who had just risked everything for him. The crowd was silent, unsure whether to cheer her or scowl at the teenager's arrogance. Ashley didn't wait for their approval. She glanced around, making sure Sean was all right. Paramedics arrived, bustling with energy and professionalism. Ashley stepped aside, watching as they secured Sean on a stretcher. She could hear him mumbling complaints about discomfort, ignoring the danger he'd just been in. She clenched her fists but didn't argue. Some battles weren't hers to fight, not today. As she walked away, the reality sank in. She had done something incredible, something heroic, and yet had been met with arrogance and disdain. The world didn't always reward courage, and people didn't always notice bravery. Ashley knew this all too well. She had been a hero before, yet her life had remained a constant struggle. Later that night, in the quiet of her small apartment, she replayed the scene over and over. The fear, the heat of the flames, Sean's panic, his rude words. It all felt surreal. She shook her head. "Why do I even bother?" she whispered. But a tiny spark of pride flickered. She had acted when it mattered. She had made a difference. And yet, the arrogance in Sean's eyes gnawed at her. He reminded her of all the times she had faced dismissal, of all the moments where her worth had been questioned. But she refused to let it sink in. Courage wasn't about thanks, she reminded herself. Courage, she whispered softly, echoing her mother's voice, is doing what's right even if no one notices. The next day brought unexpected news. Alexander Hunt, Sean's father and a billionaire known for his influence and power, arrived at the diner. His presence was commanding, almost cinematic, yet there was an unmistakable warmth in his gaze. He had come to thank her personally, to offer money, to reward her bravery. Ashley's first instinct was to refuse. Money could not erase years of self-doubt, nor could it heal the wounds of her past failures. She met Alexander's eyes firmly. "I don't need a reward," she said quietly. "I did what anyone would do if they could." Alexander studied her for a moment, recognition flickering in his expression. He saw something more than a waitress. He saw intelligence, bravery, resilience, a woman shaped by life, unbroken, even in struggle. And though their interaction was brief, a subtle connection formed, a seed planted that neither of them fully understood yet. That night, as she tucked her children into bed, she thought again of what had happened. Life had a strange way of testing people. Some days it handed her pain and guilt. Other days it handed her a chance to prove her worth, even if the world was blind to it. As Mia drifted to sleep, whispering a thank you for dinner, Ashley kissed her forehead. One day, she murmured to herself, all this will mean something. One day, courage will be seen and hearts will change. The streets outside hummed with the distant sounds of the city, indifferent to her struggles, yet she felt a quiet shift within. She had faced fire and metal and fear today. She had acted. And though gratitude was absent, she had found proof of her own strength. Because sometimes true heroism isn't celebrated. Sometimes it simply exists, and that is enough. The morning sunlight filtered through the diner windows, casting golden streaks across the worn tables. Ashley Johnson moved between customers with practiced efficiency, balancing trays, taking orders, smiling despite the constant ache in her back. Life rarely offered surprises, and when it did, they were usually inconvenient. Today, however, would be different. "Ashley, can you do me a favor?" her boss asked, a hint of urgency in his voice. "The delivery boy who usually handles this is out today, and we really need someone to cover. Could you take this lunch to the Hunt Corporation? Mr. Alexander is having a busy day, and, well, it's important." Ashley's heart skipped a beat. Her mind raced with memories of the accident, of Sean's arrogance, of the billionaire's calm yet penetrating gaze. Just lunch delivery, she reminded herself. Nothing more. She accepted the tray with a nod, masking the flutter of nerves in her chest. The streets were crowded, the traffic relentless, yet Ashley moved with the focus and precision she had learned from years of hard labor and sudden crises. Every step brought her closer to a place she had never imagined entering again, a world of glass and steel, wealth and order, so far removed from her own small apartment. Inside the Hunt Corporation, chaos reigned. Employees scurried like ants, phones rang incessantly, and a critical product launch was on the brink of disaster. The new system, a revolutionary electrical network meant to redefine the company's operations, had failed. Screens went dark, alarms blared, and panic spread through the sleek offices. Ashley set the tray down quietly, unnoticed at first, her eyes scanning the room. Something clicked in her mind, a recognition of patterns, wires, circuits, the skill she had honed years ago as an electrician. She took a deep breath, feeling the familiar rush of adrenaline she hadn't experienced since firefighting days or late nights fixing broken wiring. "Excuse me," she said, approaching an overwhelmed technician. "I might be able to help." The man looked skeptical. "Who are you?" "This is a high-security area." "I'm just a lunch delivery," Ashley replied, "but I know electricity. I can help fix this." A moment of silence fell. Then, desperation overrode doubt. "Do whatever you can," he muttered, stepping aside. Ashley moved quickly, hands steady, scanning the system. Wires were misaligned, circuits overloaded. She traced connections, recalibrated modules, and carefully reactivated the panels. Slowly, the room's lights flickered back to life, screens illuminating with data, alarms silencing. Employees stared in disbelief. A cheer broke out quietly, a ripple of relief filling the office. Alexander Hunt appeared then, his expression unreadable at first. But as he observed Ashley working, his eyes widened slightly. He had seen competent professionals fail, systems crash, panic rise. But here was someone extraordinary, stepping in at the perfect moment. Alexander's gaze shifted to Ashley, now straightening, wiping her hands on a rag she had grabbed from the floor. He saw her fully, determination, intelligence, calm under pressure, a presence that commanded attention without demanding it. Ashley met his eyes, sensing both curiosity and respect. "It's done," she said simply. "The system is back online." Quiet pause. Then Alexander's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "Remarkable," he murmured. Not just for the action, but for the courage it took to step into a place where she didn't belong and succeed when experts had failed. The employees murmured among themselves, astonished that someone so ordinary-looking could accomplish something so extraordinary. Whispers of admiration spread through the room, yet Ashley remained grounded, focused, modest. She didn't crave attention. She had never needed it. Later, Alexander approached her, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "Ashley Johnson," he said softly, "you amaze me. Not just for saving the company today, but also for saving my son the other day." Calm, capable, courageous, truly remarkable. Ashley blushed, instinctively lowering her gaze. Compliments had always felt strange to her, almost undeserved. "Ah, I just did what I could," she replied quietly. "I know I'm not an expert in your world, but I know how to fix what's broken." Alexander studied her, as if trying to understand her completely. "That's exactly it. You see problems others cannot or refuse to see. You act when others hesitate. Most people would have panicked. You didn't." A spark ignited in Ashley's chest. For so long, she had doubted herself, weighed down by guilt and the relentless struggles of daily life. And yet, in this moment, someone powerful, influential, and discerning acknowledged her worth. Her skills, her courage, her instincts, they mattered. As she left the building, the tray now empty, she felt the strange mixture of exhilaration and disbelief. Today, she had been more than a waitress. She had been a problem solver, a hero in an entirely different way, capable and confident. And although Sean Hunt's arrogance and disdain still lingered in the back of her mind, Alexander's recognition planted a seed, a quiet but undeniable sense of possibility. Back on the crowded city streets, Ashley reflected on the day. Courage, she realized, wasn't always about fighting fire or pulling someone from a burning car. Sometimes it was about stepping into the unknown, trusting your skills, and believing you could make a difference, even when no one expected you to. As she walked home, thinking of her children waiting in their small apartment, she whispered to herself, maybe there's more I can do. Maybe I am capable of more than I ever imagined." And for the first time in a long while, hope felt real. Because sometimes Opportunity doesn't knock twice. It appears unexpectedly, when you least expect it, and only those brave enough to step forward seize it. Next day, Alexander Hunt invited Ashley to his office to talk. The room was quiet after the chaos of the electrical failure, the hum of the computers the only sound. He leaned back in his chair, eyes thoughtful as they fixed on her. There was something in her presence, strength, intelligence, resilience, that demanded attention. He wanted to understand her, to know the story behind the courage he had witnessed. Ashley, he began carefully, I need to know more about you. You've done things today most people couldn't even dream of doing. But I sense there's a history here, something that shaped who you are. Ashley hesitated, the weight of her past pressing down. She had lived a life of survival, of constant movement, hiding failures behind layers of work. Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke, but she met his gaze. I've made mistakes. Things I can't erase. Alexander nodded, inviting her to continue without judgment. Tell me. She swallowed hard. When I was a firefighter, there was a fire, a little girl trapped under debris. I tried to save her. I couldn't. She didn't make it. I've carried that guilt ever since. Her hands trembled, gripping the edge of the desk. And years ago, my mother, she called me while I was driving. I wasn't paying attention for a second. There was an accident. She didn't survive. I've never forgiven myself for that either. Alexander listened quietly, the empathy in his eyes deepening. That's a lot to carry, he said softly. You've survived tragedy, loss, and yet here you are, still standing, still capable. Ashley's voice grew quieter, almost a whisper. I've also done everything to survive. Worked as a nanny, cleaner, electrician, waitress. I've hidden my life behind different jobs. I've never felt like I truly belonged anywhere. Alexander leaned forward, voice firm yet gentle. Ashley, the world often underestimates people who survive. It measures them by titles, money, status. But what you've survived, and what you've achieved despite it, is extraordinary. You are stronger than you realize. Her eyes filled with tears, not from despair, but from the rare acknowledgement of her worth. For years, she had been invisible, her courage unnoticed, her failures magnified. Yet here was someone seeing her fully, not as a waitress, not as a survivor, but as a woman of immense capability and heart. Alexander paused, then smiled. I want to give you an opportunity. Something I hope can change not just your life, but the lives of others. I'm starting an organization, a place to teach practical skills, to empower people who often go unseen. And I want you to lead it. Ashley's first reaction was hesitation, disbelief even. I'm not sure I'm the right person, she admitted. I've failed before. I don't feel worthy. Alexander shook his head firm. Worthiness isn't about perfection. It's about action, impact, and integrity. You've already proven you have all three. You've saved lives, solved crises, and inspired courage. That's exactly what this organization needs. For the first time in years, Ashley felt a glimmer of possibility, a spark of confidence that had long been buried under guilt and struggle. She imagined teaching, guiding, helping others discover their own strengths, the life she could build beyond survival. She exhaled slowly, meeting Alexander's unwavering gaze. If I can help, if I can really make a difference, then I'll do it, she said, voice steady now. I'll try. Alexander nodded approvingly, a sense of satisfaction in his expression. Good. That's all it takes. Courage to step forward, to lead, to believe in change. The rest will follow. Ashley left the office that day with a renewed sense of purpose. The past still haunted her, but for the first time, she didn't feel bound by it. She had been given a chance not just to survive, but to thrive, to turn her pain and experience into something transformative for herself and others. Ashley stepped into the bright open space of the new organization, feeling a mix of nerves and determination. The walls were lined with tools, workstations, and learning materials, symbols of opportunity she had never imagined she'd touch. For the first time in years, she felt her purpose clearly. She could help others gain skills, confidence, and independence, just as life had forced her to develop them. All right, everyone, Ashley called, her voice firm but warm. Let's start today by learning the basics of carpentry. Mistakes happen, but they teach us more than success ever could. Her students, a mix of young adults and older learners, looked to her with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. But Ashley's calm authority, born from years of surviving emergencies and mastering practical skills, quickly earned their trust. As she guided hands, explained techniques, and offered encouragement, she noticed the satisfaction growing inside her. She was no longer just surviving. She was creating impact, teaching courage, and witnessing transformation. Outside the walls of the organization, however, not all eyes were admiring. Sean Hunt, Alexander's 15-year-old son, had been observing from a distance, his jealousy growing like a shadow he couldn't shake. The attention his father now gave to Ashley, the admiration and respect, felt like a personal affront. In his mind, she was just a waitress, a stranger from another world, a world he had always believed was beneath him. He watched as his father interacted with her, offering guidance, asking questions, seeking her input. His chest tightened with a mix of anger and confusion. He couldn't understand why someone like Ashley, ordinary, human, flawed, held so much influence over Alexander. Determined to act, Sean began plotting subtle ways to undermine her. He spread rumors among the students, whispered doubts about her experience, and even manipulated minor problems in the workshops to make her appear careless. Each action was calculated to shake her confidence, to remind everyone, including Alexander, that she was, in his eyes, unworthy. Ashley, however, didn't notice at first. Her focus was on the learners, on teaching, on building not just skills but trust and self-esteem. She believed in leading by example, in showing through actions rather than words what true courage and capability meant. Her patience and empathy created a ripple effect. Students encouraged each other, mistakes became learning opportunities, and respect for her leadership grew steadily. Yet the tension was palpable. Sean's schemes introduced small frustrations, moments of doubt that prickled at Ashley's focus. A misaligned piece of wood here, a confused student there. Nothing serious, but enough to make her pause and question. She reminded herself of her past, the fires, the accidents, the constant pressure to survive. She had faced much worse and had always persevered. Alexander noticed the undercurrent too. His sharp eyes saw the subtle manipulations, the shadow of Sean's jealousy. He admired Ashley's composure, the way she handled minor setbacks with grace, turning challenges into teaching moments. It confirmed what he had already sensed. Her leadership wasn't just about skill. It was about integrity, courage, and heart. By the end of the day, Ashley felt both exhausted and fulfilled. The learners had progressed, laughed, and discovered talents they hadn't known they had. For her, the real victory wasn't in completing tasks, but in seeing confidence grow, in witnessing the spark of transformation ignite. And yet, she couldn't ignore the undercurrent of tension from Sean. His presence reminded her that leadership wasn't just about skill. It was about navigating envy, prejudice, and resistance. She sighed, recognizing that this journey would test not only her knowledge but her patience and resilience. As she walked home that evening, carrying the quiet satisfaction of the day's work, Ashley whispered to herself, "Leadership isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about standing firm, even when others doubt you." Deep inside, she felt a surge of quiet determination. No matter Sean's schemes, no matter the obstacles, she had a purpose. And that purpose, helping others rise, teaching courage, and inspiring change, was worth every challenge. Because true leadership, she realized, isn't granted by authority. It's earned by action, integrity, and the unwavering belief in the people you guide. The workshop buzzed with energy as students worked on their carpentry projects. Ashley moved among them, offering guidance and encouragement, her voice steady and reassuring. For a moment, she allowed herself to feel proud of the progress, proud of the confidence she was helping to build. But then a sudden cry, an accident. One of the students, a young boy named Jake, had misjudged a swing of the hammer and cut his hand. Blood pooled on the workbench, and panic rippled through the room. Ashley's heart clenched instantly, memories flooding back. The fire. The little girl trapped under debris. Her mother's accident. The guilt that had never left her. Not again, she thought, a cold dread gripping her chest. Jake. It's okay, stay calm, she said, rushing to his side. Her hand shook as she applied pressure to the wound, but her voice remained firm. You'll be fine. I've got you. Students stepped back, watching, tension hanging thick in the air. Ashley felt the familiar pull of guilt, of responsibility that had haunted her for years. The world seemed to shrink around her, and she questioned herself. What if I fail again? What if I can't protect him? Alexander, who had been observing from the office window, entered immediately. His presence was steady, grounding. Ashley, what happened? He asked, concern in his voice. She took a shaky breath. Jake got hurt. It's my fault. I should have been more careful. Her hands trembled as she cleaned the wound and applied a bandage. The familiar wave of guilt threatened to overwhelm her, a shadow from the past rising sharply. Alexander placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Ashley, you didn't cause this. Accident happened. You acted immediately. Your skill and care are what matter. Look at him. He's going to be okay. Ashley glanced at Jake, who was now calm, albeit startled. Relief washed over her, mingled with shame. She remembered the little girl she couldn't save and the overwhelming grief from her mother's accident. For a moment, she wanted to walk away, to hide, to escape the weight of her perceived failures. I can't, she whispered, voice tight. I can't risk failing again. She stepped back from the workshop, feeling the walls close in, her confidence faltering. The students watched silently, sensing the shift. Alexander followed her, gentle but firm. Ashley, listen to me. One incident doesn't define you. Not then, not now. You've saved lives, taught courage, and inspired countless people. Don't let fear dictate your choices. She shook her head, the shadow of doubt still clinging. I just don't know if I can face this again. Alexander's gaze was unwavering. You're stronger than you think. And you're not alone. We'll face challenges together. But don't let old guilt steal your purpose. The world needs what you can give. Ashley inhaled deeply, the weight of the past pressing on her, yet a tiny spark of resolve flickered. She realized that leadership wasn't just about guiding others. It was about confronting her own fears, accepting imperfections, and moving forward despite them. The trauma had returned, yes, but so had the opportunity to rise. And for the first time in a long while, Ashley considered taking that step back into the workshop, back into leadership, back into courage. Ashley had retreated to her small apartment. The hum of the city outside a distant echo compared to the whirlwind inside her mind. The guilt from Jake's accident gnawed at her, wrapping around her thoughts like chains. She felt powerless, certain she had failed again. Her leadership, her purpose, even her courage seemed fragile. Meanwhile, Alexander Hunt wasn't willing to let the situation rest. He had noticed the unusual tension in the organization, the sudden missteps that seemed out of place, and something in him told him that the truth was hidden, not in Ashley's abilities, but elsewhere. One evening, while checking the company's security and internal communications, Alexander noticed a message on Sean's phone, accidentally left open on a desk. The words jumped off the screen. Sean had orchestrated a small sabotage during the carpentry lesson, deliberately causing confusion and contributing to Jake's accident. Fury burned inside Alexander, sharp and controlled. He immediately sought Sean out, his steps heavy with resolve. "Sean," he said, voice calm but lethal, "we need to talk." Sean looked up, startled, then tried to mask his nervousness with arrogance. "What's this about?" "This," Alexander said, holding up the phone, "is about your behavior. You deliberately caused problems in the workshop. You endangered someone else's safety and tried to blame it on Ashley. Explain yourself." Sean's eyes flickered with shame, but pride and fear wrestled for dominance. "Ah, I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt. I wanted to show her she's not perfect. I thought." Alexander's gaze cut through his excuses. "You thought you could manipulate, deceive, and get away with it. That's unacceptable. As long as you live in this house, you will take responsibility. You will help repair the damage you caused." The weeks that followed were transformative. Sean was assigned to assist the students with projects, working directly under Ashley's supervision. He learned firsthand the value of hard work, patience, and collaboration. Slowly, the arrogance that had once dominated him gave way to empathy, respect, and understanding. For Ashley, it was both relieving and validating. Seeing Sean confront the consequences of his actions, seeing him step into responsibility, reminded her that leadership and influence extended beyond technical skill. They were about guiding hearts and fostering growth. Jake, fully recovered, accepted Sean's sincere apologies. The interaction was tense at first, but gradually, Sean's remorse proved genuine. Ashley observed quietly, her posture firm, yet her heart allowed room for cautious optimism. Change, she realized, was possible, even in someone as seemingly self-centered as Sean. Alexander, meanwhile, reinforced Ashley's role. "You don't need to feel guilty for what happened," he said, his voice steady and warm. "Your impact is real. You are teaching, guiding, transforming lives, including Sean's. That is your strength." Ashley felt the weight of her past and present begin to lift slightly. Her work, her dedication, and her courage were making a tangible difference. And in guiding Sean toward empathy and accountability, she saw a reflection of her own journey, the struggle, the pain, and ultimately, the transformation that comes when people face the truth and rise above it. For the first time in weeks, Ashley allowed herself a quiet smile. Justice had been served, learning had occurred, and her organization, was stronger for it. The week that followed the revelation of Sean's sabotage was tense, yet transformative. Alexander had made it clear Sean would take responsibility for his actions, and Ashley would remain in her leadership role, guiding both students and the wayward teen. Sean approached Ashley cautiously, the weight of guilt evident in his posture. "Ashley, I want to apologize," he said quietly, "for everything. For Jake, for everything I've done. I was wrong." Ashley observed him, her stance firm but her eyes softening. She had witnessed arrogance, jealousy, and rebellion from Sean, but now she saw something new: remorse, awareness, and the willingness to change. Jake, fully recovered, watched the exchange with curiosity and caution. "I forgive you, Sean," he said simply, his voice steady. It wasn't easy, but it showed that Sean's apology carried sincerity. Alexander stood nearby, his presence reassuring. "Ashley," he said gently, "you don't need to carry guilt for the past. You've already done so much good. The accident wasn't your fault, and the impact you're making now is real. The students, Sean, they're learning because of you." Ashley exhaled, a mix of relief and renewed purpose flooding her chest. Ah, I see that, she admitted, her voice quiet yet strong. It's hard to let go of the past, but maybe it's time to move forward. Sean, under Ashley's supervision, began actively participating in the workshops. He worked alongside her children, Mia, Jordan, and Lily, learning the value of effort, responsibility, and collaboration. Slowly, he began to see ordinary people through a lens of respect, understanding the courage and determination required to lead and to care. During one project, a minor accident occurred. Jordan tripped while handling a small tool. Before anyone could react, Sean acted instinctively, catching him and preventing a serious injury. His father observed silently from the side, impressed. In that instant, Sean had demonstrated courage and responsibility, not out of arrogance, but out of genuine concern. Ashley felt a swell of pride, not for Sean, but for the change she had helped foster. She realized leadership wasn't just about teaching skills. It was about inspiring empathy, guiding hearts, and giving people the space to grow. "Thank you," Alexander said, his voice filled with admiration, "for not giving up on him, on them, and on this organization. Your work is transforming more than just the students. It's transforming lives, including Sean's." Ashley looked around the workshop. Students engaged, Sean collaborating earnestly, her own children learning valuable lessons. A quiet satisfaction settled in her chest. She had returned to the role she once feared she might lose. Her leadership was not only intact, it was thriving. For the first time in a long while, Ashley felt the full weight of accomplishment without the shadow of guilt. She had faced past traumas, guided others through mistakes, and witnessed growth that extended beyond herself. Courage, she realized, wasn't only in dramatic rescues or life-or-death moments. It was in standing firm, teaching, and believing in transformation, even when doubt lingered. And as she watched Sean help her children, she understood something profound. Redemption was possible, but only when met with guidance, patience, and a belief in people's capacity to change. Ashley smiled quietly. She was back, stronger, and ready to continue leading with integrity and compassion. Ashley stood in the bright workshop, watching her children, Mia, Jordan, and Lily, laughing and helping the students. The transformation was undeniable. The organization she once feared she might fail at had become a place of growth, courage, and hope. Sean, now calm and respectful, worked alongside the children, teaching them patience and responsibility. The arrogance and prejudice that had once defined him were replaced by empathy and understanding. Watching him catch Jordan from a small stumble, Ashley felt a sense of relief and pride. Change was real, and it had happened before her eyes. Alexander approached, his expression soft but proud. "Ashley, look at what you've built. This isn't just about teaching skills. It's about inspiring hearts, showing resilience, and transforming lives. You've done that and more." Ashley smiled, a warmth spreading through her chest. "I finally see it," she said quietly. "Courage isn't only in saving lives in emergencies. It's in standing firm, teaching, and believing in yourself and others." The children ran to her, hugs and laughter surrounding her like sunlight. In that moment, she felt whole. The past traumas, the guilt, the fear, they were still part of her story, but they no longer controlled her. She had reclaimed her life, her purpose, and her confidence. Sean came up beside her, nodding respectfully. "Thank you," he said, "for not giving up on me, on all of us." Ashley placed a hand on his shoulder. "Everyone can change. It just takes courage to try." As the day ended, Ashley looked out at the bustling workshop, her heart full. She had saved lives in emergencies, yes, but now she had saved hearts, inspired change, and built a legacy of courage and transformation. And this is just the beginning. Every act of guidance, patience, and teaching she offered rippled outward, touching lives beyond her imagination. If Ashley's journey inspired you, Remember that courage, resilience, and transformation are possible in every life. Follow our channel to see more stories of courage, redemption, and hope. Click below and join us for journeys that inspire and empower every day.